Hey everybody, Shawn here from theautomationschool.com, and in this episode of The Automation Show, we're going to take a look at what's new with Siemens PLCs and HMIs, as seen at their virtual event, Manufacturing in America 2020. I was supposed to go to the physical event. I was really bummed out. Siemens was going to send me out there so I could meet everybody and cover it all. And of course, we had COVID-19 happen. So they made it into a virtual event, which means that everybody can go now because it's virtual. You can go anytime. And you can just go, I'll put a link to the website in the description. You can just click on that. You can see all the new stuff that's happening with Siemens. But in this episode, we're going to cover what I found most interesting about the presentations that include PLCs and HMIs. Now, with that said, before we get started, I do want to say a quick thank you to all our patrons over at patreon.com/automation for supporting our work and our site. They get insider news, they get early access, and all kinds of extra benefits for being a supporter. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. We'll go over to the computer here, and we'll start off with their presentation about the latest advancements in SIMATIC, PLC, I/O, and motion. Okay, and the first thing is, if you don't follow Siemens, then you probably wouldn't know that version 16 of the TIA portal came out in the fourth quarter. So the newest version right now is version 16. I think I'm still running 15.1. I got to do an update because we got the SM1500 they sent in here over at the on the corner of the workbench. So, but that's the new version. We're going to cover some of the new features in that because there are substantial new features in that version. So first up, with the SM1500 firmware 2.8, they added a number of features, including secure emails with file attachments, so the controller can send that out. Support for device overlapping IP routing with IP forwarding and IP accessibility. Okay, that's more for more advanced applications. New innovative web server with standardized tag access, as well as a lot of upgrades to OPC UA. So we'll get into each of these here. So starting with OPC UA client capabilities in the controllers now. So this enables both method calls and reading and writing data, but it allows for controller-to-controller communications as well. So that's pretty cool, all using OPC UA. I just think that's amazing, right? I never thought of OPC UA as being a controller-to-controller communication means, but that is very cool. Here we can see some more information about it. We're still on the field level, looking at Profinet to talk to our I/O devices, but UPC UA now can do all of these other levels. Now with this change, there's also some enhanced diagnostics to go along with it. So I won't read this entire slide to you, but just keep in mind that they have updated these diagnostics so you can analyze any, and troubleshoot faster. Now we also talked about the web server upgrade. You can see here's an example with some new graphical runtime information. So I think this is cool. This is like, these type of details really make it easier to understand and see what's happening by not just having a bunch of numbers on the screen, but actually having it graphically displayed. I think that's a great improvement. They also talk a lot about high availability and redundancy. And I got to say, I think this slide is the best slide I've seen comparing the two options within the Siemens family. So you have the 1500R versus the 1500H, right? And so the redundant PLCs, they have a switchover time about 300 milliseconds, and they support up to 50 devices on Profinet Ring. Whereas the high availability versions, right, they have that dedicated port that goes in between them. So that high performance synchronization module connection, right, that can be up to 10 kilometers apart, right? And it has a switchover time as low as 50 milliseconds. So two options. I just think this slide does a great job of comparing the two depending on what you need for your application. And this slide also does a great job of showing the differences between the two systems, the R and the H. And I just think it makes a lot of sense. I'm really appreciative putting these slides in here. I didn't have a clear understanding of them both until I saw this. And not that this is necessarily brand new or anything, but I still think if you're looking into redundancy, these two slides are very helpful. Now this slide here is talking about a change from 15.1 to 16. And it's an important change because in 15.1, if you went to download to the primary, the backup would stop. And that's not desired. That's not the desired functionality. So that's no longer the case with 16. And I'm sure people using the redundancy are really going to appreciate that. Another feature I think is very important too is now the support for the S1 devices that have the keep last value feature. This allows those devices to be used with the 1500 R&H because they will stay at last value during a switchover, where previously S1 devices would, default to going off, and that's not what you would desire from I/O on a redundant system. Next up, you can see they're talking about the ET200 Pro based on the S7 1500. You can see here what it looks like. If you need an on-machine solution, then this would be definitely an option now. And here you can see they're talking about some mechanical design changes to the S7 1500. Basically what they've done is they've taken that display that's on the front of the unit and integrated it into the CPU. Still removable, still replaceable, using the same spare part number that you would with the older models, but now it's actually on board the CPU. So they also took out the run stop switch and replaced it with run stop buttons. So that's something else you would notice too, going to the newer S7 1500 models. There's also some new features with the advanced controller in version 16 and firmware 2.8. We're looking at an added feature of conveyor tracking, of cross PLC synchronous operation. So synchronizing between axes on different CPUs, that's cool. And also coordination of traces in different CPUs. So you can see some of those new features there. Now on to the basic controllers like the S7 1200. You can see here that with version 16 and 4.4 firmware, you get that secure email with file attachment feature. You get an OPC UA server, but this is a basic version. This is first release. You get some open user communications. You get 2 new M switching digital output cards. We'll talk about that, and then push-in terminals. So there's a slide on each of these, so we'll just jump right in there. Here you can see the slide on the email encryption. And I'm not going to go into, I haven't even used this yet, but just know that that's also available. And here you can see information about the OPC UA server for the S7 1200s. Again, there's no support here for data types and arrays. Okay, so this is, first version. So this is what you can do, but you're not going to have support for methods or alarms and conditions here in Rev 1. Okay, so here you can see some more information about it. You can see the S7 1200 comes with the basic license. And you can see the different options here, what's supported, what's not supported. Now here we can see information about the 2 new output modules. These are syncing output modules, or M switching modules, right? So here in the US, most people want to have sourcing outputs and syncing inputs. But some machinery that comes in from overseas is going to be directly opposite, right? And so this gives you the ability to handle those applications if you have to have syncing outputs, right? So, or M switching, right? So the only difference in the part number here is this little 1. So you got to be careful if you buy these, not to always stop buying these, because they're almost exactly the same part number there. Okay, and here's a kind of a picture of the difference between sourcing or PNP outputs versus syncing or NPN outputs. Okay, so in Siemens terms, that would be P switching and M switching. And finally here, for those who prefer to push in terminal blocks, you can now buy them for your S7 1200. Unfortunately, you're still going to get the S7 1200. It's going to come with the screw type terminal blocks. You have to pull those off and throw them in a drawer somewhere because you're not going to be using them, and use the push-in terminal blocks. But it's nice to have that option. You could order a bunch of these, put them in the stock if you're an OEM, and just have the people, the people on the floor just wiring stuff up, and then put them on your controller. But there's no way to order the controllers today without the standard screw type terminal blocks. All right, so next we get into the ET200 distributed I/O. A lot of new stuff here, stuff I like. We have some high channel modules. So, these modules are high density 64 channel digital modules. So you can see DI and DQs of 64 at 24 volt DC. They also have a combo module here, a 32 and a 32. 32 in, 32 out. Now, these are great, but like most super high density modules, these do require a cable and an external terminal block. So there's not, the 64 terminals on that module to land all your field wiring, right? So you just got to keep that in mind. Other vendors do the same thing. Also some high density analog, 16 points. They also have this new active backplane, right? And this is cool because this allows you to hot swap modules. So if you're running in a redundant system, you got to swap out some modules. This is a great feature to have. It's a must-have feature, right? So that is definitely an option. Even if the PLC is in the run mode, you'd be able to swap the modules. Again, if you're in a hazardous environment, you got to take that into consideration because you wouldn't be able to hot swap in a, like a class 1 div 1 or 2 operation. I haven't read all the specs on this, so you'll want to verify that for yourself. But typically, anything that says hot swapping cannot be done when there's like flammable stuff in the air, gases or particulates. So keep that in mind. That would not be typically for that. And you can read the manual if you want to know more about that. But in any case, I just bring it up just in case you weren't aware of that. Okay, so you can see the I/O modules and the connectors they have in them and the kind of the cables and the terminal blocks. And here's another view of that backplane. You can see the different type of modules supported, 35 millimeter, 25 millimeter, slot covers, etc. Now this slide kind of goes into more detail on the 16-point analog input modules. So you can see that detail there. I'm not going to go into all the gory details about it, but there it is. And this is one of my favorite enhancements. These are multi-field bus interfaces. Okay, so these are couplers, right? Or if you're a Rockwell guy, adapters that support 3 interfaces at once, right? Not only do these couplers support Profinet, Ethernet IP, and Modbus TCP, but it can do so simultaneously, which is just really cool. Not that I have a use for that right now, but if you're doing like listen only on a bunch of inputs, you can read those inputs to 3 different devices at the same time, which I think is just amazing. So, or you could just use one if you want, but that just having a coupler like that could support all 3 networks natively is pretty awesome. And you can see some new information here on some ET200MP products. We have a analog N 8. You can see here UIR RTD, so like a universal input card in other terms. And then here we can see this is a CM8 XIO link. So 8-point IO link master, very cool. Okay, so we'll be doing a lot of IO link. The folks over at IFM have been great. And sent us in some temperature sensors and some encoders in their IO link software and masters. So we'll be looking at that pretty soon. We also had Wago and Siemens send in some IO link stuff, so we'll be looking at that as well. So we'll be doing a lot of IO link this summer, I hope, if everything goes as planned. And with that, those are all the PLC slides I wanted to highlight. Of course, there's a lot more in that presentation, and you can use the link in the description to see the whole thing. But now let's switch over to the HMIs. Now the first few slides here go into the new line of unified comfort panels, and this is really a step up from the existing comfort panels that are out there. One of the big features is that they're all multi-touch capable, so the touchscreens are multi-touch capable like your smartphone. Another big deal is that the performance has been greatly enhanced. As a matter of fact, you can have double the tags now, you can have double the connections, and you can have 3 times as many scripts. The scripting is also based on JavaScript now, so very powerful. Some of the other things you'll find here is all the models have the same performance. It's not like the smaller models have less performance, they're all the same. And they all have a ton of ports, including a gigabit port, a 2-port Profinet switch, 4 USB 3.0s, even a serial port for 422, 485 applications and communications to legacy PLCs, and 2 SD slots. One's for the automatic backup that happens automatically, just like with the current comfort panels. And the other one you can use for whatever you want, if you want a data log to it or whatnot. So really a great advancement. Now, most of the features of the comfort panels are currently in these new unified comfort panels. However, not everything is in there. So I wouldn't suggest going out and buying one without talking to your local Siemens representative or distributor, and they can walk you through what will and what won't work today. But their plan long term is to make everything work, and there's so many new features in this as well. It's definitely worth taking a look at. Especially, I was really impressed with all the ports these things have. But it's a beautiful line. We're hoping to get one in to go through, do an unboxing in, and actually set it up and use it. So we'll hopefully we'll see one if the stars align, we'll get one in a couple of weeks. But in any case, I wanted to cover that beautiful line of HMIs. Next in this presentation were slides about their IPCs, and they got a pretty nice line here. First, they get the IoT 2050, right? So this is a little ARM-based, IoT interface device, a little tiny computer. You can get it with Siemens Industrial OS pre-installed. Okay, that's a Linux, a Debian-based Linux, and you can see here, it's just a very small device with a graphic interface, a couple of USB interfaces, and it's Arduino Shield compatible. So that's good to know. The next one here is a small, ultra compact industrial PC, right? So this you can get with Windows 10 or the Siemens Industrial OS. This little guy, he has a little 4-core Atom processor with 4 gig of RAM and 128 gigabyte SSD. Okay, so this is truly a small PC. You get up to 3 LAN interfaces and 4 other interfaces. And, just for those mini PCs, if you need one, this is a good option to take a look at. Here we have the IPC 527G. This is kind of like a big, bulky, super expandable industrial computer. This thing can be table mounted, book mounted, wall mounted, and just has 4 expansion slots and tons of other expansion you can see here. So very flexible industrial computer. Personally, this is my favorite though. This is the high-end panel PCs. I mean, they come without, you can get them without the panels, you can get them without displays, but these are the high-end panel PCs, the 677Es, and they're just beautiful. I mean, they just come in, they're very large, they're multi-touch, they come with 8 Gen Intel processors. I think 10 Gen just came out. I'm running 9 Gen here that I just bought. So again, this is industrial stuff, right? So it's always a little bit behind what's commercially available for offices. But you get an SSD, an NVMe SSD, a USB 3.1, and some USB Type-Cs. And, you get 3 LANs, gigabit LANs. You get 6 USBs. You get, on the panel PCs, 2 expansion slots. So, I mean, this has everything but the kitchen sink in it. I mean, just pretty impressive device. And I don't have the picture here, but just looking at all the ports is just amazing. It looks very similar to this down here. It's just amazing what they give you. 2 display ports, 1 DVI, etc., etc. So very powerful, widescreen, large. I think 19 through 24-inch multi-touch IPCs. So very, very cool. They also have a lower end version. This is the IFP. So you can take a look at some of the information on this guy as well. This is more for the lower cost applications. You get it down to the 12-inch, although 12-inch for me is kind of small for an industrial computer. But yeah, so these are some nice computers here they have in the IPC line. As far as WinCC goes, 7.5 SP1, you're looking at integrated cloud connectivity using MQTT. I mean, MQTT is quickly becoming the default protocol for IoT, IoT type applications. Of course, connectivity to the 1500R and H that we covered earlier. Enhanced browsing and configuration of complex data structures in UPC UA channels. And just enhanced functionality in the web UX. I love the simulation of external tags, virtual commissioning. That's a great feature. And the adoption of the newest Microsoft operating systems to ensure compatibility. So I've never really used WinCC. I've mostly used, the InTouch, the FactoryTalk View, RSView, and iFix back in the day. But I'd love to get my hands on it sometime in the future. From there's a lot more slides about Siemens Industrial Edge, MindSphere apps, and more. And if you want to see all the details, I definitely recommend you click the link in the comments, go over to the Siemens site for Manufacturing in America 2020, and take a look at the virtual presentations and the PDFs, and see if there's anything else in there that interests you. But for me, those were the highlights that I had after reviewing both of those. And I hope you enjoyed this show. I want to say, if you know anybody who needs training on, control logics, compact logics, micrologics, PanelView Plus, VUSC, please have them go over to the automationschool.com. That's where I work full time, and take a look at our courses. They're the most affordable courses, professional courses on the market, and I think all our customers have been extremely happy. So plus, if they buy a course now, they get the free 2020/2021 upgrades. So they'll get all those new lessons I'm doing right now to bring those courses up to speed and fill them up with the latest and greatest information from Rockwell. But with that said, I just want to thank you for watching. I do want to take a moment to thank my patrons. We're at patreon.com/automation. They help keep us on the air, and they get special insider news and videos and early access and all kinds of benefits, and really appreciate their support of the Automation Show and the Automation Blog. And with that, that's the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, my friends, peace.